Hello and welcome to the Digitally Overwhelmed podcast. My name is Cynthia Pacheco, and I'm on a mission to help online businesses step out of digital overwhelm and step into their creative potential. This podcast is all about helping women get more in tune with the analytics and SEO side of their business without the digital burnout. Get more information about the podcast at digitalbloomiq.com. Hey there, welcome to the Digitally Overwhelmed podcast. My name is Cynthia. I'm your host, and I run Digital Bloom IQ, where I help health and wellness businesses get found in Google and heal more of the world. This is episode 214 of the podcast, and today I'm going to be talking about how to repurpose your marketing content to your blog. This is such a great concern and question. So if you are struggling with this, I hope you walk away with some ideas, with some just actions, some things that will get you excited, because as you know, SEO is so potent, but doing it consistently over time is definitely a different thing. And there's many things in our businesses we need to be doing consistently over time, but especially SEO is a long-term game. So let me give you guys some ideas. So the idea of this episode is that I'm going to be talking about different formats of things and how you can take them and make them blog posts. So I'm not going to be going into depth in this, but if you do want really specific step-by-step instructions as well as tools, I recommend you check out Homegrown Traffic, my SEO course. And there's a whole module. It's a brand new module and trainings within that module that talk about specifically which tools I use in my business to take podcast episodes, make them blog posts, how to take social media content, make them blog posts. And I just walk through that step by step, share the screen, and just explain that process. So this episode's going to go through some ideas more at a high level, but still very helpful, very interesting. And the last thing I want to say about the course is that currently I am offering some very special bonuses that I haven't offered before. And this actually is the last month that it's going to be at the current price, and then it's going up in December. This year I've updated the course. Well, over the last few years, the course has been updated, but this year in particular, I added a few new trainings that have been really helpful. And so I decided it's time to grow the price a little bit. All right. So, and lastly, obviously, if you want to check out more about the course, you can go to bit.ly/SEO course 21, or you can go to my site, digitalbloomiq.com, and there's a courses tab, and you'll be able to check out the course there. All right. So let's dive into this topic of repurposing marketing content for your blog. And this has really been something that I've worked on and something I've been obsessed with, because there's a lot we can do in terms of creating content. And it's one of those tasks that can really easily suck up our time, especially if we tend to be like maybe a little perfectionist-y, and we really, just want to get good quality content out there, which is great. Like, I'm not saying we shouldn't put good quality content. I actually feel like more and more Google is ranking quality content over quantity, both in terms of how often you blog as well as the number of words you use, for example, on your blog. It's also easy to fall into this trap that we're like, spending all this time creating content and not maybe doing other things in our business that could really move the needle. So hopefully what this information does is it gives you a little bit of a shortcut to think about your content in a different way, so that suddenly it becomes easier to blog. So you're not, stuck, I guess, in a way. So the first example that comes to my mind is, podcast episodes. And this one's easy for me because I have a podcast, surprise, and my podcast does turn into blog posts. So what I do is I record the episodes, like you're hearing me right now. I transcribe them, and then I look at how I can make them a blog post, right? So that's totally legit. That's all it is, right? So sometimes I will meaningfully choose keywords that I want to target as part of my SEO strategy in as a podcast topic. Sometimes I don't. And I talk a lot about this in the course, where balancing, keywords that are intentionally SEO related versus, because we're creative beings, not everything we do is going to be SEO driven, which I think is normal and actually a good sign that you're in the right business. If you're just doing things because of SEO, then I don't know, it gets kind of robotic, right? So it's totally normal to have a balance between these two types of topics and keywords. And so I think it's about just being honest with yourself and just saying, okay, every quarter, every month, I want to target this many keywords that I think are going to attract traffic. And by the way, if you don't know what keywords are, definitely check out the SEO course. I have a few modules actually on keywords and what they mean and all that. And I also have some free resources. You can check them out on my blog and podcast episodes. But anyway, so that's the first step, just creating this streamlined process. And so the podcast episodes to blog posts is kind of easy, right? Just transcribe, done, and then some editing has to happen there. The next example is social media posts. And so some of you might think, but the formatting is different. Instagram posts, maybe you're writing 300 words, or maybe you're writing whatever, it's different. So I'm never going to say to you, okay, just like copy and paste and forget about it, because that's not going to work. There needs to be some intentionality and some thought process. But could you take maybe a social media post that is like 500 words and then add on to that? Or could you take a series of social media posts and that work together, bring them together on your blog, and just curate that experience so that it's actually meaningful, right? Could you just look at which social media posts have been the most popular, and could you just take that and again, just translate it into blogging land, and even, go back and do keyword research on those topics, right? So the idea is that you can take the text and then make it work for your blog without having to start from scratch with like a white document, which a lot of people find really hard, right? And especially if you're putting that pressure on yourself of like, time to blog, boom, a lot of you are just going to get stuck. So starting with something, having something to go on can be really, really helpful. And so I'm sure you're seeing a pattern here, but the idea is to take content that either already exists or content from a channel that you find really easy to create consistently, and then going along and translating that for your website. And especially with social media, it's really attractive because we know that how Instagram works, our content isn't super, there's not much life to it, right? Someone might see it today and then that's it. Yes, people go back and scroll. Yes, like I'm not saying get off social media necessarily, but it's so much more motivating to take some of that content and repurpose it and put it on your blog. It's good. You poured your heart and soul into that. And then you have people finding it again and again on your website through Google. So that can be really fun and motivating. All right, the next one is videos, which is kind of similar to the podcast episodes. So maybe you are really into videos. This could also be like, if you are doing Instagram, I've done this like Instagram stories, I've made them videos and then I've made them blog posts. You can even include the video in the blog post too. So it's similar to the podcast in that you're transcribing and then, making it into a blog post format. Webinars or trainings, anything can literally be taken and made into a blog post. And you could go a step further, you can make it a blog post and then you can make it like an opt-in if they want to get the full webinar and the blog post has only some information. There's like so many different things you can do. The last one I want to kind of play around with is Clubhouse rooms. So I know Clubhouse has been something that has kind of come to the forefront this year. It's been exciting. I've dabbled in it a little bit, definitely enjoying it. I'm not a full-on Clubhouse junkie for sure, but what has happened with me in Clubhouse rooms is I'll get ideas for blog posts and podcast episodes, and I will sometimes take time during the Clubhouse room or right after to write out notes and outline topics for my blog and my podcast. And that's almost been something that has enriched the ideas, because the cool thing about Clubhouse is you are hearing your ideal client ask you questions, and the language they use to ask you questions, that's where the gold is. So, taking a Clubhouse room, from what I understand so far, you can't really record things, but if you wanted to write notes and just take note of language, I've definitely taken some questions that people have asked me and written them out verbatim, because that's the language that people are asking things in. And those are that's the way I want to target those keywords. So those are a few ideas of just different ways that you can take content that you're already doing consistently and blog about it. And this can also complement blogging on its own. So you could do a combination of repurposing, as well as just blogging for SEO and doing the whole keyword research thing, doing the full-on SEO, so that you can alternate between targeting specific keywords as well as just going off of creativity. The reality is that if you're in tune with your audience, you're probably already naturally targeting keywords that they're asking, because you know what they worry about, their worries, what wakes them up at night. So that's going to come out naturally. And I've had many students that actually start ranking keywords that they haven't done keyword research for, or keywords that haven't gained ranking yet, but they're kind of trending keywords that are coming up. That can definitely happen. So if you want to get more detailed information about this process, a more breakdown of specific tools and how to do this in a way consistently, definitely check out Homegrown Traffic. You can go to bit.ly/SEO course 21. And there, I believe it's module 3, because that's the one where we start writing. And then there's a whole new training on converting podcast episodes, social media, and videos into blog posts in a way that's easy and friendly and really fun. And the SEO course isn't just about that. It's a 4-step methodology for growing your website traffic. It's not about knowing everything when it comes to SEO, knowing the right things and how to do them in the right order as a small business so that you can start growing your website traffic. That's what this course is really focused on. And I'm just giving you the step-by-step tools and instructions to just grow that traffic, right? Because I know a lot of you want to grow your website traffic, but you just don't want to kind of know it all, right? Or maybe, you're not really willing to spend money on an expensive SEO research tool, which, by the way, the course focuses on mostly free tools, because I really feel like that's enough. That is enough. As a small business, you have the metrics. It's more about knowing how to use that information to then apply that to your blog and your website. So I'm super excited to see the progress that you're making with your content and your SEO. If you want to take a screenshot of this episode and tag me at DigitalBloomIQ on any of the social media channels, I would just love to know how you're doing with this process, with this task. And I'll catch you next week. Bye.
Hey, this is Cynthia, and I wanted to once again thank you so much for coming on and listening to this episode of the Digitally Overwhelmed podcast. I spend a lot of time creating these episodes and editing them and publishing them, so I would love for you to leave me a review, whatever platform you're listening to your podcast on, whether it's iTunes or something else. Go ahead and click on that review bar, give me some stars, and leave a little comment. That really helps other people just like you find the podcast and just helps them grow their business. And if you want to find out more about this episode and more about what I do, get links from the show notes that we mentioned in this episode, you could head on over to digitalbloomiq.com/podcast. And there, the latest podcast should be published. If not, you'll need to scroll through and find your podcast number. Thank you so much for listening again, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Digitally Overwhelmed podcast. Bye.